Hello everybody, here we are today doing a video over the Edmonton Oilers and then talking about 4 reasons why winning the Stanley Cup would be such a big deal for them. So before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So the first reason is going to be legacy defining moment for players. Now, any team winning the Stanley Cup is going to be a big deal, but one player in particular has a lot riding on this series. That being Connor McDavid. Now, McDavid is a former first overall pick. He's got a lot of accolades and awards and things of that nature, enough to make most NHL players jealous of what he's been able to do to this point. And the reality is, there is a lot more left in his career and what he could do. So he is already nearly at 1,000 points in his career, and he is 104th all-time in points already at like 27 years old. And if we go by what he's done over the past 3 seasons, you could just figure that into like an average and then put it over the next 3 years. He would go from 104th all-time to 23rd all-time. So he'd go from about 1,000 points to 1,400 points in that span, and that would kind of, again, put him near that top 20 range. And not everybody in the top 20 has a Stanley Cup to their name. However, you don't want to be the Marcel Dion and pass him for like 6th all-time and end up being, the highest scoring player ever to not win a Stanley Cup. Not saying that's necessarily going to be the case here, as there is so much time left for McDavid, but you never truly know if you're actually going to get to another Stanley Cup final. Obviously, to this point, they had never even made it. So just trying to take advantage of the moment now. So if you do win this, you can say, well, it's over. And if you don't, you might worry about, are we ever truly going to get back there, as you are a team that's going to be dealing with a lot of other things, like other teams getting better and whether or not you're going to be hot in the playoffs. Those are all valid concerns. And for Connor McDavid, this is a legacy defining moment again, because if you're being compared with some of these guys that are going to be like top 10 in points, you want to be able to have a cup to your name. And then for a couple of other names, I wanted to throw out Leon Draisaitl. Now, Draisaitl is seen a little bit differently than McDavid, and that's understandable, but he was a high pick for the Oilers that has developed into a big star and has been a big-time goal scorer for them, especially during this postseason. He is another player that would be remembered very, very well with winning a championship and seeing all that he's done. He is also closing in on 1,000 career points and still looks like a very good player. So him winning this championship would cement his status in Edmonton for sure. Already it is. But outside of that, I think as well too, getting players that are able to have a lot of points and things like that are nice, but you are remembered a little bit differently if you win a cup. And then Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is another name that comes to mind. Former first overall pick. He has played a long time with the Oilers. He has been there during some days that weren't particularly great for the team, and I know that he's taken a lot of criticism some years where he's had down years where he's not been able to play a lot of games and things of that nature. But it is always kind of cool to see a player that has been with the team during the dark days, that has spent almost 15 years with one team and is closing in on 1,000 career games, be rewarded, or to be able to make it to this point, because it's not very common anymore in pro sports, seeing one person play so long with one team. So yeah, you have some guys right there, and at the end of the day, we all know what happens. Winning a Stanley Cup is something that immortalizes you. Yes, individual awards like McDavid has seen are nice, but winning the cup, as we always say, is everything. Now, the second reason is the whole McDavid, Eichel, McDavid, Matthews debate is put to rest. I hate to really kind of talk about this, but obviously you have Jack Eichel last year going on and winning the Stanley Cup, and that was a big deal. It really was, because he was taken just after Connor McDavid in the draft that year, and then his team, the Vegas Golden Knights, ended up beating the Edmonton Oilers in that process to go on and win the cup. And I included, out of all this, was talking about how Eichel could always say that he has a cup instead of McDavid, even though McDavid's going to have a better career. But with this possibly winning the Stanley Cup would just, again, erase all that. Not to say anything bad about Jack Eichel at all, is again, he's going to go on and have a very nice career. He's averaging about a point per game for his career, and he's already a Stanley Cup champion. But we are very well aware that Connor McDavid, at the end of the day, is a better player, and putting him on the same footing here would be nice. And you know that a lot of the people that are more of a Connor McDavid hater, if you will, would always bring up that fact that, oh, Eichel won a championship, they went through Edmonton that year, therefore he's the GOAT, when really, obviously, it's more of a troll thing. As for the Austin Matthews-Connor McDavid debate, I think that deals more with them being on big market teams and seeing them both be stars in a Canadian market. So looking at all this, obviously, Austin Matthews is a very, very good player. Again, a lot of individual awards, and is seen up there with Connor McDavid in terms of how good he is. And I know some people say, well, no, clearly Connor McDavid is better. There are people that will argue about that, again, because you see really good defensive play out of Matthews, and if you take away all the things that have happened in Toronto with, again, the postseason, you might look at it in a little bit different light, especially up until, a couple of years ago. Edmonton was in a spot where they weren't really doing a whole lot in the playoffs. But I will say, as much as I hate to go on about this, where I'm usually going to be a defender of a player not winning a cup, I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here. McDavid's had a great career. His team has seen a lot of playoff success, especially over the past, 2-3 years. And Matthews just has not. They've not been able to go on a deep run, and his goals per game production does go down. That's something that we talk about a lot during the playoffs, so you hear a lot about during the playoffs. So if Connor McDavid ends up winning a Stanley Cup, yes, Matthews will be viewed as a very, very good player, a great player, somebody that could be, maybe first all time in goals, which is huge. However, if he doesn't go on to win the cup, especially if they aren't able to go on a deep run in the playoffs ever, then McDavid is going to be compared in a totally different light than Matthews would be. And I don't want that necessarily to be the case because, again, you can have really, really good players never win a championship. But yeah, it's going to be a lot harder for the people that are Austin Matthews fans to defend this if they see McDavid hoist Lord Stanley. And then another reason would be the fact that it's been such a long time and not everything has been great along the way. Looking at Edmonton after they won the Stanley Cup back in 1990, they ended up having 7 seasons afterwards where they finished last in their division and had 18 seasons where they weren't even able to make the playoffs. They had like a 10-year run from 2007 through 2016 where they weren't able to make it. So yeah, there were some dark days for this team, and for a franchise that had won 5 championships in 7 years, things were totally different there for a while, and from like the mid-90s up until 2021, 2022, when they made it to the Eastern Conference Final, they really just had one true deep run in the playoffs. So seeing a team that for a lot of fans in the 80s, in the early 90s, being the best team in the league and going into being a team that was average to bad to really bad, I could understand how this would have been a very difficult time for fans, as there's a lot of people that have not seen this team win a championship. In fact, one thing that's kind of weird that sticks out here is if they win the Stanley Cup, they'll have a more recent Stanley Cup than a division title, as this would be 1990, the last time they won, possibly this year if they won the Cup, but they still have not won a division title since 1987. But we are all very aware that Edmonton fans would totally throw away the division title in terms of saying, oh, I want to win this compared to winning a Stanley Cup. I don't think that they would ever care if they won another division title as long as they're able to win multiple championships. And even if it came down to just one, they could care less about winning 100 division titles compared to winning one Stanley Cup. Also, I did want to throw in there, they'd be tied with Boston and Chicago for cup wins after this if they win. Not necessarily saying that it's huge, but, bragging rights, 2 original 6 teams there that you could say, hey, we're tied with you. And then the final big reason would be the fact that Canada's cup drought would come to an end. So Canada as a nation is built on hockey. It is something that it identifies with on a government basis, on a just entire basis. However, they have not won a Stanley Cup since 1993. That was the Montreal Canadiens, and American teams have won it every year since 1994. Since then, 6 teams have gone to the Stanley Cup final that are Canadian. None of them have won: the 94 Canucks, the 2004 Flames, the 2006 Oilers, the 2007 Ottawa Senators, the 2011 Vancouver Canucks, and then the 2021 Montreal Canadiens. Now, some of those were Game 7s where things were really close and things could have gone their way. However, they've not been able to get the job done, and it's not a guarantee that any team, especially Canadian teams, are going to go on to win the Stanley Cup, as there are just 7 teams compared to 25 American ones. It means it's something a little bit more different for Canadian sides and a Canadian fan base. I don't necessarily think that Canadian fans are going to say, yeah, we want Edmonton to win, but I do think at a certain point, people are saying just get it over with regardless of who it is. No, maybe unless it's Toronto or Vancouver, I don't know. But for a lot of fans, I think they would just like to hear this be done and buried. And it would mean a lot for the nation as well, as they focus more, it seems like, on international play. Not even necessarily focus, but more attention, I think, gets put there with fans thinking, oh, we could win this because we actually do win gold here. Whereas a lot of fans are just like, well, we're never going to win a Stanley Cup because we haven't seen it in our lifetime. And yes, I am somebody in that category that if Edmonton won the Cup, it'd be the very first time that a Canadian team has won the Cup since I've been alive, as I was born in 2000. And then it has been a bit before that they even won a Cup, with it being the Habs. So I'm not exactly sure how this will all go, but I do think that a lot of people will be like, it's over, we can celebrate. And then a bonus is that it would be good for the brand. Now, this is going to be a very quick segment, but essentially Edmonton is a top 10 team in terms of value. According to Forbes this past year, they were ranked, I believe, 7th, maybe 8th. Either way, they're viewed at $1.5 billion, valued at $1.5 billion. For a franchise that's been pretty good, again in the 80s, and has got the best player in NHL history on their team that you can look back at, and then a great player now, you know it's just going to be nice to see the team win a championship, as it would make that value even bigger, as you have more and more people probably wanting to buy a Connor McDavid jersey, or just whoever it is on the team. It's always good when your team is able to win. It's even better when your team is able to win championships, and when you have a long history, or a great history for a iconic run. Not going to be bad in terms of making this maybe in the future another NHL franchise valued worth $2 billion. Now, winning the cup is not necessarily going to make them be the next team. I don't know, as the value did rise a lot last year, but we'll see. And of course, you know, Edmonton fans could use it as bragging rights again. I don't really know who uses it as an argument, but yeah, I'm sure somebody does. So yeah, those are just a couple of reasons why I think the Edmonton Oilers winning the Stanley Cup would be a big deal. What do you think are reasons for you, and who do you want to win, and why? Also, why do you think it'd be a big deal if Florida won? Maybe I'll do a video over that as well some point during the week. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.